Hey, adventurers, get ready for the trip of a lifetime.
We're cooking up an epic land-based vacation, an adventure for two, and you could be the lucky winners.
Details are still under wraps, but trust us, this is one giveaway you won't want to miss.
Want a head start on winning? Here's the deal. For early access to the raffle and 5 raffle points, not 1, 5, head to the link in the description or visit notouristallowed.com and sign up for our newsletter. That's what you have to do.
That's right. You'll be the first to know when the official giveaway launches.
Don't miss out on this amazing opportunity. You know, last season we gave away a Virgin Voyages luxury cruise for two. So now we're giving away this great land-based vacation. Stay tuned and get those early raffle entries in and perhaps prepare for an unforgettable journey.
Welcome to No Tourists Allowed, a podcast where 2 recognized travel industry executives with a combined 71 years on the inside of travel and technology give up their secrets to the thing everyone wants to do. Travel better, spend less, and see more of the world. Here are your hosts, Mike Putman and James Ferrara.
Good day, everyone. I'm Mike Putman.
And I'm James Ferrara. Welcome to No Tourists Allowed.
Yes, welcome. We're in our 3rd episode of season number 3. Seems like yesterday we just started, but we're moving. Time is marching on. And we do have an exciting sweepstakes that we've been talking about. We've been teasing a little bit. And you'll find a segment on our podcast today that will tell you how to get in early and get 5 entries into this dream vacation that we've got for you. So make sure you follow up. Go to notouristallowed.com. Register for our newsletter if you haven't already, and receive 5 entries into the sweepstakes.
That's this week's instruction, right, Mike? That's the way to get entries this week, and it's 5. This is a big one. You get 5 entries in the drawing. Last season, you may remember, guys, we gave away a Virgin Voyages luxury cruise for 2. So we're taking it on land this season and giving away quite an adventure. Keep coming back. We'll be teasing out the details, and we'll be giving you more ways to earn points. But besides the giveaway, Mike, we have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about this week.
It's been a really busy booking season this year. There's quite a lot of activity. There's companies, travel companies, public companies that are reporting record results all around. Carnival has had some really big news about their, I think, best ever results. A lot of the airlines are following along the same. And we're seeing on our end record bookings for 2024 already.
That's right.
So, our advice to you, especially this year, is to book early. Last year, we know that a lot of the European destinations, a lot of the flights got filled up, as well as a lot of the hotels got booked very early, which is it's not totally atypical, but last year was like heavier than ever. And I think I mentioned on the podcast before, I was seeing an average rate of around $500 a night in London for hotel rooms during the summer, which even for London, that's high on average. And I've been doing a little searching around because I've been planning a trip or 2 this summer. So I would advise all of our listeners, if you're going to book, especially to Europe or to the Caribbean this summer, get your bookings in now so that you can claim your space, get a seat on the plane, get a hotel room, and not overpay.
Yeah, and Mike, that that volume, that great interest in travel, it's just great for us, right? Great for our businesses. But it's also sometimes leads to some things that we talk about here that are maybe a little controversial. We try to stay positive, but and things like airport congestion, for example, and some of the technology issues that we've had over the last couple of years. Well, these things, it's kind of a bit like whack-a-mole, isn't it? In the travel industry, we fix one thing in the travel industry and something else pops up. So we tried to fix a congestion problem in the airports by some of these kind of trusted traveler programs, things like TSA PreCheck and then Clear. And the problem is that, PreCheck became very popular, and I've been to airports where the PreCheck line is longer than the regular line. Now, it doesn't happen a lot, but every once in a while, right? And the same with with airline boarding things. Now Group 2 on the airline is the entire plane. They have commoditized these statuses to the point where, they're selling them as part of their loyalty programs and credit cards and so on, that if everyone has status, then no one really has status, right? Well, the new problem that we've been hearing about, or new challenge in the industry, is Clear. Clear made so much sense. I mean, we've even talked about it here, Mike. It's been one of our ongoing recommendations to our audience, is to join the Clear program, which gets you, you don't have to have your ID out, and they walk you to the front of the line, which always causes some interesting reactions, but really speeds you through the airport. I've come to rely on it for saving me, 45 minutes in the airport. It's a really great idea, great service. The problem becomes if too many people recognize what great a service it is, which is what's happened. Now there's a line at Clear, which the first time it happened to me, I was like flabbergasted, and now it's happened quite a few times. And I've actually been in a situation, a small airport, where the Clear line was longer than the regular, TSA line.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It happened to me in Orlando, as a matter of fact, just a couple of months ago. And, look, I've had Clear. I was an early adopter when they were really just in Orlando and a couple of other airports. I gave it up, and then Clear came to Greenville-Spartanburg, which is the airport that I fly out of a lot, and I re-engaged with them. But I'll tell you, I still feel, to this day, I feel guilty about it, right? So you got these passengers waiting in line, and it is a license to cut in line, and that's really all it is, to be honest. And I always feel a bit squeamish about doing it. I don't know, my moral compass goes off, whatever it is, but I don't feel really good about it. And oftentimes, unless there's a big advantage, and it's going to save me a lot of time, I'll just go, I'm TSA pre, so I'll just go to the TSA pre and maybe wait 2 or 3 minutes rather than going through the Clear thing and being somewhat embarrassed about jumping in front of all these people.
Mike, you are a better man than I am. Clearly, when it comes to saving time, getting to my flight on time, having a little time to grab a bagel, I have no moral compass at all. I want to get to the front of the line.
Well, but if you wouldn't get there 2 hours early, you wouldn't have to, worry about that.
Yeah.
And also I've traveled James a lot, and by the way, he bitches about every bagel on the planet unless it comes from New York. Every time.
With good reason.
Yeah. I know him too well in some places, but anyhow, it really is. And I think and I read an article just recently, and it said, if you really boil it down to everything, it's a license to cut in line, nothing more, nothing less. And I don't.
They had some trouble with the TSA last year because a few bad actors got through Clear with, without the proper ID.
I think that fake biometrics or something.
Right. So they got in trouble. TSA pulled back their license a little bit, and then you had to actually show ID, even though that was part of the promise. Now they've done Clear Plus. There's an upgrade. You change your information that you have on, or upgrade your information that you have on file with them, and seems to be working again. I'm not going to take back my recommendation for it. I still think if you're a frequent traveler, it makes a lot of sense. It costs you very little, maybe nothing, if you've got the right credentials, the right loyalty status, and so on. I still think it's a good idea, but it's just interesting to me. See, when you create a shortcut and then everyone starts using the shortcut, it's not a shortcut anymore. So what's interesting to me is what are they going to do next? You know?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I just don't think, I don't think it's a sustainable business model. I have my membership because my credit card pays for it. If it didn't, I would probably morally object, even though it's a bit of hypocrisy. But I don't know. I would not invest money in Clear, because I think at some point the government's going to pull back because they don't really need them anymore. Anyhow.
So listen, there's a really interesting topic I want to talk about today that kind of turns our whole ethos here at No Tourists Allowed on its head, right? Because we talk a lot about searching for authentic travel. And you and I both read an article recently and some research that is along the lines of be careful what you wish for, you might get it, right? But before we get to that article, you also brought up an interesting point to me when we were chatting about how when you're traveling, it's great to add on events, concerts, sporting events, and so on. But and that can make, you go to the UK and you see a real football game or a rugby game in Wales or any, similar things in other countries. But there are some tricks of the trade around being able to do that and create a fuller experience for yourself, and watch out for maybe some pitfalls, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a trip, and I've got a great example of this. So my two daughters, one is 29, hello Sophie, and one is 9, hello Layla. And they both happen to be Taylor Swift fans. I know it's a big shocker, right? But she evidently spans the spectrum of 29 to 9-year-olds in her popularity. So we got together and decided that, well, I shouldn't say we. They decided that I was going to take them to a concert. That's the right way to look at it. So anyhow, we looked around for tickets, just like probably every other father has that has girls in that age group. And the tickets are $2,000, ish. Not for the best seats in the house, by the way, but just kind of 2,000-ish to kind of maybe a little bit better than getting in the door. Well, I happened to find in Germany, she's going to be some small town near Dusseldorf, during the summer, tickets, and they were $600 a piece, which in Taylor Swift world, that's a bargain, right? So I grabbed 3 of those, thinking that, hey, I could fly over there, we could spend a few days, and it would probably ultimately be the same price as going to Chicago or wherever and seeing her $2,000 ticket. So that we're going to do that for our over the summer. But one of the things that came to mind is, what if we have all this stuff planned, and we've got a few days ahead of time, but what if she gets laryngitis or breaks up with her boyfriend and decides she doesn't want to do the show? What kind of happens, right? And what are the things that you can put in place to ensure that if something like that happens, you can choose to, if it's far enough in advance, you can choose to reschedule your trip, or you could, continue your trip and just forget about the concert. So this is a great, the point I wanted to make is I'm not a big fan of travel insurance for someone who is relatively healthy like myself. And, I'm a guy who's pretty decisive. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it unless there's something major comes up. So I'm not a big travel insurance person, but it's great for a lot of people. So don't get me wrong. It's just not necessarily so much for me. But this is one trip that I think I probably will take some travel insurance in case. And of course, got to make sure that covers the cancellation of an event like that. But and we would have fun anyway, even if she didn't go or if she didn't perform. Although the girls will be disappointed, but I think this would be a good opportunity, a good investment to take some travel insurance for this particular trip.
Yeah, and you can usually, first of all, let me say, A, will you be my daddy, Mike? Because it's very generous. B, the travel insurance will usually cover anything that you add into a trip. The one thing I'd be very careful of here is just to read the fine print and ask the questions that something like that would be covered, that a star canceling a concert would be covered. I think it would be, but just want you to make sure. You should always know what your coverage is. But I have a different approach about travel insurance. I'm a big believer in it, and I recommend it all the time. But certainly in a case like this, there are also the vagaries of this area. You're buying tickets, especially if you're buying tickets internationally. There are scams in this area. There are tickets that turn out to be not legit and so on. So you'd be covered for that too. So good tip. And you mentioned this trip coming up. You've got some other, I'm going over to the UK in a week or so, and I will be in London, and I will be in Dublin and Limerick in Ireland. So really looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I'm working, so it's not that I'll be just hanging out, but I'm still looking forward to it. And you've got Scotland on the...
Yeah, so on the tail end of that trip, I'm gonna send the girls back after we see Miss Swift, and then I'm gonna head into London for a few days, and then I do my kind of normal summer Scotland golf trip for a couple of weeks. So
that is great, and we'll get you on some tips for Scotland, a place that we both love. Let us talk about this article that we read, Mike, and this idea of in a traveler's search for authentic travel. Authentic may include things that might actually be hard to take, things that could offend your sensibilities, things that culturally are so different to your values, that authentic might be a turnoff in a sense, or might result in seeing or experiencing something that's a turnoff. I think of, for example, there are places in Spain that still have bull rings, and bullfighting is a really important part of the culture, usually for a couple of weeks during the summer or whatever. And so to really understand that place, we were recently in Malaga, that actually has one of the beautiful original bull ring there. So to really understand the culture of those people, that's a big part of it. But you might be offended as an animal lover, as a humane person. This might seem like an inhumane thing to do.
Pretty gross if you've never been to one too. I hunt things, small animals at times, and but there are it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough seeing one of those. I don't think I would go back again. But I'll give you another experience. So an authentic experience that I opted out of. So I did a tour of Ecuador and Brazil in the jungle, going down a tributary of the Amazon, and did the whole thing. I mean, like, this was a deep immersion experience where for 4 nights, I think, we were in these huts. They were off-the-ground huts, but in really traditional huts with no running water, toilets. And there was at the culmination, and we went and visited, locals and saw how they lived. And it was a great trip, by the way. I really enjoyed it, and it was a great experience. But the last night, there was this kind of culmination, and people were sitting by a fire, and there was this hallucinogen that they were passing around, and then there was this kind of ritual thing that, first of all, I don't do drugs, and second of all, this was kind of bordering on things that I didn't really, I certainly did not want to participate in as a Christian. It was getting into, I don't know, it seemed kind of like voodoo-like, I don't know. But at any rate, and I pulled away from it. But it was very authentic, but I didn't participate in that part of it. But so there's things where you want to do something very authentic, but sometimes you have to raise your hand and say, hey, look, I'm going to opt out of this. And the interesting, so get back to this article that we shared, and the article was really about who bears the responsibility when you put a traveler, and this is coming from a travel industry perspective, who bears the responsibility when you put a traveler in a authentic situation that might be a little too much?
And when you say who bears the responsibility, so it could be the tour operator who needs to do a good job up front communicating what the experience includes and putting it in context, right? A cultural context, like I was talking about the bull ring, or you were just talking about. So if you explain the cultural context and you prepare the traveler up front, then the tour company, the tour operator, is taking some responsibility. But on the other hand, what responsibility do travelers have? How much research are we doing? Are we looking into what we're going to see and what we're going to experience? Are we putting a little effort into understanding the culture that we're going to visit? And so maybe the responsibility lies on us. I mean, I'll tell you, my personal philosophy is I want to be taken out of my comfort zone. I'm not going through the expense and the trouble of that travel in order to wind up back in my own living room. I want to experience cultural values that are different than mine, even if some of them ultimately might offend me or I choose not to believe in them. I think it's a growing moment for me and for all of us to have those kind of out of our comfort zone experiences.
Yep, I would agree. I agree. This particular instance that was referred to was there was a company that led a trip in Vietnam. Yes, it was Vietnam. And as part of the trip, they went to a restaurant, and in the restaurant, they cooked a dog. They fried the whole dog.
Yeah. Now, that's a tough one. But, there are cultures where they eat dogs. And I think in the article they said, if you're a avocado toast eating American from Brooklyn and you go someplace and, dog is on the menu, you might not have a great reaction to that. I think there's a lot of stereotypes in that comment. Yeah. But if you go someplace and you don't have the exposure to something different than you have at home, then you're not traveling you're not making use of the travel. You're not getting the most out of you. Well, that would be my feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do think this is a good warning, like, do your homework.
Yeah. And I think the traveler has some responsibility, right? If you're going to tromp through the markets in Hanoi, you're going to see some stuff, right, that's going to make you uncomfortable. Even if you go through some of the markets in Mexico. I mean, I've been through there and seen, things that were not particularly appetizing, but that's part of the experience.
You're going to see things like child labor when you travel to some places, and that might make you uncomfortable. Certainly there are sex workers and norms around that. that could make you uncomfortable, especially coming from puritanical America. There was, I went to Japan. It wasn't Tokyo, it was Osaka, I think. And no, I'm sorry. It was South Korea. And I was walking around and came across a big sign. Now, nothing's in English, so I really don't understand anything I'm looking at. And then all of a sudden, see a big sign, and it says cafe in English. So I understand that. But below it, there is a picture menu of all different dogs and cats. And so I stopped in my tracks and thought, oh my God, that's horrible. Oh my gosh, that's disgusting. But I had it all wrong. It wasn't a place to eat. It was a place where you paid by the hour to spend time playing with these different animals. Because apparently in the living conditions in that part of the city and in Busan, it's hard to have pets. So people go to these places and you can spend an hour with a dog of the type of dog of your choice or the cat of your choice. That's what it was. But of course, I it looked like something different to me when I first saw it. So, that's the kind of stuff.
Yeah. And actually, just in the last month, they have outlawed eating cats in South Korea. I
think that's good news. But I've had other things. In Mexico, I went to a restaurant, and the name of the restaurant is basically a word for grasshopper. I didn't realize that until later. And so a lot of the dishes had grasshoppers, ants, and other delicacies.
I've had grasshopper and scorpions in Thailand, which was kind of a non-event. Once you got over it, it's like a fried onion ring or something.
But to me, that was actually a good sort of out of the norm, out of my comfort zone experience. It didn't offend me. It was just different, So,
and I think that kind of wraps it up for today's.
Sure. I just want to make an ask out there. We'd love to see you guys on the website, notouristallowed.com. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know questions or topics you'd like us to cover. Tell us some of your stories too. Who knows? We like your story. We might send you a little gift, right? Make some recommendations for places to visit, places to eat, all the sorts of things that we talk about here. And Mike, you're going to Scotland, so give us one, good place to eat or something to see in Scotland we might not know.
I really like the food in Scotland. Edinburgh is actually a really big food city. People don't realize. And there are just countless great, specifically seafood restaurants. About 60% of Europe's seafood actually comes out of the east of Scotland. So they harvest a lot of lobster, lots of crab, the traditional fish, which haddock, cod, that kind of stuff. There's one Michelin-starred restaurant outside of St. Andrews, and the name is slipping me, but I will bring it up next time. That's really good, and I tend to eat there every summer when I go over.
So I've got one for you in London since I'm on my way there, and that is at the Dilly Hotel, which is on Piccadilly Square. And actually, it's a remake of a hotel that there's been a hotel on that property for a long time. But the Dilly is the latest incarnation and really quite nice, quite stylish. And in the lobby, all the way in the back of the hotel in the lobby, is a Michelin-starred Indian restaurant whose name I can't pronounce, but you can't miss it. It's at the Dilly Hotel. And the food, it's enormous and very almost nightclubby. They're very active, beautiful crowd, beautiful food. And my tip for it, besides trying it out and enjoying the great food, is when they ask you if you like it spicy or not, do not say spicy, right? Because they mean spicy as if you were a Southeast Asian person, and you mean spicy as, somebody from the States or the UK. You cannot handle the spice.
It'll be Taco Bell spicy.
No. It'll be inedible for you. Mild. Say mild.
Yeah. That's one thing I do when I go to India. Every time they say, what's your spice level? I'll say, how low does your scale go? Because...
All right. Listen, guys, come back. Sign up for that newsletter, 5 entries. Come back next week to hear more about this free trip giveaway and more ways you can enter the drawing. Thank you so much for listening in this week.
Yeah, thanks so much. We'll see you next week.